Good morning. This is going to be my Mindful Moments Part 2, and I've called it Choose the View. So this morning, Monday morning, it's a lot greyer than the last time I spoke, and the situation has deteriorated as far as the coronavirus pandemic's concerned, and it's easy to get much more anxious. And the more that we watch things on the telly and we read and we see Facebook posts and we surround ourselves in the story around the current situation, it's scary times and it's easy to get quite anxious and feeling quite unease, and it really affects our mental health and our emotional well-being. So I thought this morning I might try and use some mindfulness techniques which might help us to regain that sense of calm, and that we've got some kind of control about what we choose to think about and choose to watch. So, sometimes when we get quite anxious, you might start to notice that you start to breathe with the top half of your lungs, so your breath gets a lot shallower and it's much more difficult to feel calm because your breathing is not as deep and it's a bit more, a lot faster. And so one of the things in mindfulness which is really, really important is the way in which we're able to sit and to breathe clearly and breathe deeply. So one of the things that helps maximise the effect of some of these techniques is just the way that we actually sit in our chairs and choose to breathe in this particular way. So what I would suggest is that we find a chair that feels quite comfortable, that you've got the back part of your, the lower part of your back supported, so you're not too slouchy, but you're not such a ramrod either. So you're somewhere in the middle, like that. And that you have your arms, hands resting either on your laps or on the arms of your chair. And that one way I find really helpful is that you try and get your hips and your knees and your ankles in the same kind of line, so that you're not like cross legs or anything like that, but you're just sort of in alignment, and that your feet are flat on the floor, so you feel a bit grounded. So what I'd like you to do, once you've found that position, you feel quite comfortable, is just to start to take 3 deep breaths. And by deep, it means slow and long. It might take you a while to get used to breathing this particular way, but let's just try it now and see how we get on. Sometimes if you close your eyes, that can be helpful. So we're just going to take 1 deep breath in and then hold it and then breathe out on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Hold, 2, 3. Exhale, 2, 3. Now, the longer you practice this type of breathing, the more effective it becomes. And you might think, why am I sat here watching a woman breathing? It seems a bit ridiculous. There's a lot of scientific, medical stuff that really helps us understand that breathing is a fantastic way for the body to start to reduce stress. And so don't knock it until you've tried it. Even in the height of feeling really anxious and worried about something, choose to take that time out and just say, I'm just going to breathe deeply, really slowly, even if it's just 3 deep breaths. It's a bit like the old adage, count to 10 kind of thing. Okay, but the more we're able to breathe more efficiently, the more our body's able to cope with the hormones and stress chemicals running through our body. Right, so we're feeling a bit more rested, and I'd like to take you on a journey this morning, and I want you to use your imagination, so as much detail as you can bring into it, that's great. And I want you to imagine that you're on a bus journey, and it's in the hillside and it's alongside the mountains, and you're sat on your seat and you're looking out of the window, and you're looking, and all you can see is a really dark, foreboding, sort of cliff, granite, rock kind of picture, and there's no flowers on any footholds there, and it's really, really hard to look at. It makes you feel it's quite a gloomy picture to see. And you're looking at this, and the more you travel around this bus route, it's quite a dangerous, windy kind of bus route. It's quite difficult. It's not an easy journey. And you're looking out your window, and you're just seeing this solid, dark, gloomy mountainside that looks quite dangerous, really. And you decide to take a deep breath. And while you're breathing, you can actually hear that there's a bit of laughter, or there's a bit of something else going on the other side of the bus. And you can hear the sounds of like fun or gasps of awe. And you just turn your head to see what all the fuss is about. And on the other side of the bus, looking out the other side of the window, the view is so different. Whereas you've got the dark cliff, on the other side, they've got the wide open valley, and you can look and you can see the rivers and the trees, and you can almost see the waterfalls coming down the mountainside, but it's going into a deep, fertile valley, loads of trees, there's even animals, that you can see the sunlight starting to come through the clouds, and it's a completely different view. Now the thing is, what are you going to do next? Are you going to then turn and look at the view out of your window, which is grey and dark and difficult to look at? Or are you going to intentionally keep your head turned and see what's outside the other window? You're all on the same bus. We're all on the same bus. We're all on the same journey. Choosing to look at a different view hasn't given us a different journey altogether, but it helps us cope with the difficult bus ride ahead, the difficult journey ahead. And so we can choose to take a different view. When we're watching the news, and we're constantly updating on our screens, on our pages, we know this is the reality of what's happening. But we don't have to constantly keep looking. We can put that to one side and just say, morning, 6 o'clock, 10 o'clock, that's when I'll check up on the news. But the rest of the day, I'm going to choose a different view. I'm going to look out the window. I'm going to look round the house. I'm going to look at the people that are around me, and I'm going to choose a different perspective, a different view. Now, we're not denying or blotting out difficulties, but these are some of the techniques that you can do or use to choose a different view, because when you choose that view of that beautiful countryside, it changes the way that your brain works. You start to feel more joyful, you start to smile, you start to feel better in yourself. And it's a way that the brain is tricked almost by the more details that you put into what you're thinking about. So some of the things you can do to help change the view, they're not new under the sun at all. You've heard that phrase, count your blessings. Well, it might be just find 5 things today when you sat down with a cup of tea to say, actually, I am so pleased about such and such. I really enjoy this. It was so lovely to hear so-and-so on the phone. It was great to keep in touch with so-and-so. You can write them down, and something I find quite helpful, because sometimes I am a bit more of a half empty than a half full kind of person. You can write things down in a little jar, and at the end of the day or the end of the week or the end of a difficult time, you can think, it's really hard, I'm finding it hard to change the view. Then just get some of those views out and just think, oh, I remember this. That was so lovely. And just reliving that experience, that emotion, is really helpful. This is great for children. This is really good for children to help them focus on things that they enjoy, things that they find helpful. Particularly, we have to be really mindful of the way our children are accepting all this difficult situation, which is so different for them, from being in a classroom of 30 people and lots of teachers around and lots of interactions and stuff, to suddenly isolated in the same house. Thank goodness for social media, which I bet a lot of parents are finding themselves thinking, I never thought I'd say that. So children can do this, and at the end of the day you can do what's called, it's like an examining. It's a special ancient way of looking at the day and finding things that you are grateful for. And so you can do it as an adult or as a child. I was really thankful for, or I really enjoyed, or I really appreciated XYZ. And tomorrow I'm going to look forward to something in particular. So count your blessings, choose a different view. More on that later. But just to finish, I'm going to read out of an ancient piece of wisdom that was written nearly 2,000 years ago by a man who, by all accounts and purposes, you would have thought would have been more looking at the view of the dark, gloomy, impending, difficult way ahead. He was in prison and he was awaiting probable death, and in fact that's what did happen. But he wrote the most joyful, awe-inspiring letter to his friends, and that man was Paul, and he wrote it to the Philippians while he was in jail in Rome, around probably about AD 60 something or other. It's a brilliant letter. It's only a couple of pages long, but the bit I've chosen is it's like a mindfulness pillar, and I'll probably explore it a bit further on in other times. So he says, finally, beloved, whatever is true, whatever is honourable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, and if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Keep on doing the things that you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, and the God of peace will be with you. So think about these things. Think about these positive things. Think about changing the view and thinking about meditating on these amazing things. I wonder how Paul's letter to the Philippians would have been if he'd chosen a different view. So keep safe, and God be with you.